dictionaries and look up the word belief.
Why would I care? Dictionaries describe usage. They don't define things authoritatively. And if I'm using a word in a way that is at least consistent with the usage of other people, then why would I mean, you're not even drawing a distinction between belief in and belief that. And a dictionary is going to have a number of different definitions listed for belief, and some of them are going to reference belief as the verb, and others are going to reference belief as a noun, and those are different things. A belief versus believe. And so, telling me to go look at a dictionary, not going to have any impact on what my position is on the word.
Well, in any case, while we were sitting here talking, I actually did look it up, and the prevailing definition of belief on the online dictionaries I looked at was the psychological state of being convinced that a proposition is true.
But and generally it includes words without evidence.
No,
well,
it did not include that.
Let's go look. I mean, you're gonna make a claim about what dictionaries are saying, and I already said I don't care, but let's just actually look it up right here. I'm at dictionary.com, and if I can get this thing to scroll down.
Yeah, I just did a Google search on it.
Number one, something believed, an opinion or conviction. Number two, confidence in the truth of the existence of something not immediately susceptible to rigorous proof.
Well, that's the part I'm talking about.
Three, right, sure. So a word has multiple usages, and you're saying that we should shy away from it because somebody else is using a different usage in a way that doesn't necessarily benefit us? I don't buy it.
Okay, well, small point, and I enjoy your show, and I'll keep tuning into you, and I will avoid the use of the word belief or believe myself.
And you can do that all you want, and I'm fully support your right to use whatever language you like.
Yep.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks.
Wow. All right. Let's try this. We got about 15 minutes left. Jeff in Atlanta. How are you?
Oh, hey, this is Jesse in Atlanta. Sorry.
Jeffy. Yeah, I should have noticed that. I was trying to read too quick. Go ahead.
Oh, it's all good. Hey, I've actually got a challenge for you and one for Jen as well, and I'll try to be brief. I've heard you say on the show before, Matt, that you sort of believe that slavery is always wrong, objectively.
I don't sort of believe that.
Yeah.
You do believe that?
Yeah.
I pretty much absolutely believe that owning another human being as property in violation of their desires is immoral.
Yes, and I understand where you're coming from with that, and yet this relates to something else that Sam Harris said that got me thinking about the point. My view personally is, well, that the reason we have morality at all is sort of an emergent property that comes out of the fact that there's 6 billion people on this planet. Everybody has a different idea of what morality is. How can we determine, and Sam Harris would say this in a similar way, we can take science and determine subjective values. And I'd love to know what you say about that and how you defend that slavery could be sort of objectively wrong in that sense.
Wow, the number of people who are trying to speak for Sam today is shocking.
Yeah.
Especially since...
No, I'm not at all. I'm not at all.
Especially
but,
since...
I've watched him give several sort of debates on this subject, and he always seems to come down on this point. Well, science can answer everything, and I believe it can answer so much, but can it answer this? Can it answer whether slavery is actually wrong?
Yes, and I've done the same thing. I've been running around the country for the last couple of years delivering a talk about the superiority of secular morality, talking about these very issues. I'm in almost complete agreement with Sam. And the position is, I would disagree with your characterization of why we have morality. It's not an emergent property. I don't think I would call it that. I think it is constructed because there are human beings and interactions, and we recognize that actions have consequences, and we can evaluate those consequences.
Yes, and if I may interrupt, I'm sorry, but my particular understanding of morality isn't that is basically that it doesn't exist except in our minds as an a priori thing for each individual. When I say emergent property, I just mean people perceive it sort of as a sum of the fact that you have this idea, you have this idea, you have that idea, etc., and they sort of imagine, well, morality sort of lives in this cloud, and there's a thing called morality.
Well, there's not.
No, there's not.
There's not. There are evaluations of actions with respect to goals and consequences, and that's about it. And I find it absurd. I don't know what kind of argument somebody could make for the morality of slavery, given the definition that
I can't. Personally, I can't. Personally, I don't think anybody else in the room could. But
and
at the same time, what you're speaking of is some sort of like it's inherently wrong, which is what I kind of have a thing against.
No, I'm not saying it's inherently wrong.
Okay.
There is
absolute and inherent.
Wow. Let me finish. There is no inherent right or wrong in some action. These are assessments that we make, and we make them with regard to the consequences that they produce and the goals that we desire. Sam draws this up as moral evaluations relate to the well-being of humans and animals. My take is very, very similar. It seems like a very practical way to go about this, and in much the way that you were unable to come up with a way in which that you could define slavery as moral, I think it's absurd to take the position that the moral relativists do, that would say that no, here's a culture that is practicing slavery, and they as a culture say that it's okay, and therefore it's okay within the context of that culture. That to me is asinine, and the only thing that they haven't done is ask the slaves whether or not they think it's moral, because that would definitely shift the zeitgeist of that culture. This is not a shock or a surprise that there's a very small portion of the population that wish to be bonded to someone as property. You may find some nut job out there who wants to be a slave and enjoys being a slave, and you can say that it's the right thing for them. No, it doesn't change the grand picture. And for the same reason that we don't have to spend any time asking the KKK for what their opinion about equal rights is, we don't have to waste any time thinking about the one or two individuals who may actually want to be a slave when we're talking about this thing in a big picture sense. And what we should be doing is going, hey, this individual wants to be a slave, wants to be property. Under any other circumstance outside of this scenario, we would look at that and say this person is suffering from some severe psychosis. They have gone beyond the pale of anything we would remotely consider normal. Let's get them help, irrespective of whether or not they want to be a slave. And so it's not that morality exists as something or as an intrinsic property of an action. These are entirely evaluations that we make, comparing the results and consequences of an action, not in a strictly consequential sense, but the results and consequences of an action to the goals that we have. And
when we say the goals that we have,
the second aspect of that, which I'm getting to, is how do we go about finding what our goals should be? And as Sam has pointed out, it's his criteria is a matter of well-being. I'm generally fine with that. And in the talk that I gave on the superiority of secular morality, one of the things I talk about is how you build a moral system that is self-correcting in the exact same way that science is. That you begin with some very basic premises, that death is generally worse than life, that health is generally preferable to sickness. And you begin from those foundational premises. And then as you evaluate the results, you can change different things, and you can even go back to those foundational premises and figure out that, hey, one of these is in strong conflict with another, so maybe we're wrong about this, or maybe there's a scenario where death may be preferable to life. And we consider things in a situational context, but in much the same way that, for example, the rules of chess may be ultimately arbitrary or subjective, the evaluation of each move with respect to those rules is in fact objective. And that is my take on morality, which is in greater depth in the lecture.
No. I think that's satisfactory. I was looking for that thing you just finally said, which is about the rules with respect to the end game being objective. That helps. I appreciate you saying that.
Thanks a lot.
And as far as Jen, I'd like to extend one to you as well.
Okay.
This is another thing. I've heard you guys go back and forth on the show, and you bring up the subject of gay rights a lot. And once I was sort of in a debate with a guy over whether hate crimes should be more punishable than non-hate crimes. And I kind of thought to myself, well, personally, I would like to, if somebody beat the crap out of me, I'd kind of like for them to get the same punishment as if they beat the crap out of someone who's gay
Okay.
and me being straight. And I thought, when we're talking about gay rights, is there any way that we can defend, sort of aligning gay rights with the atheist platform? And I know this is something you've been that you've defended in the past to some degree, but I want to know perhaps whether or not that there's some constitutional issue with or if you're defending the rights of a group where the Constitution sort of backs up the rights of an individual. And I champion that. I think that an individual should have rights under the Constitution. And even though I agree with everything you say about gay rights, what can we say, or what can you say about why, why gay rights should need to be aligned with, what atheists believe, and B, if that's dangerous under any form of government sort of taking away rights from individuals and giving them to groups in any sense.
Okay. We're short on time here, so I'm going to try to address this really quick. Why should
Sure.
gay rights be aligned with atheism? There's no direct connection. Okay, just because you're an atheist doesn't mean that you are necessarily, that you necessarily have a position on gay rights. Where the connection comes in, though, is the objections to the LGBT community having basic human rights come from religious arguments. Okay, I'm not aware of any, for example, gay marriage. I'm not aware of any secular arguments against gay marriage that are valid arguments, meaning that they would not also be extended to anyone's marriage. Okay, so there's that. As far as gay rights somehow taking away from anybody else's rights, I don't see how you can make that claim.
Well, I don't mean taking away from anyone else's rights. I just mean sort of lobbying for rights of a group, if you know what I mean, and when rights should be individual.
Well, I think that the Constitution spells out that individuals have specific rights, and so if my rights as a gay woman are less than Matt's rights as a straight man, then my individual rights have been infringed.
And I understand your point. Okay. Thank you, guys, and sorry for taking up so much of your time.
All right.
Sure.
All right, no
we got about a minute left. Thanks a lot, Jeffy.
Thanks.
Thanks.
And they've been infringed because of that category.
Right.
I mean, the Constitution did a really good job of trying to extend all these rights to people, but there were specific groups that were prevented from having the rights. And that's the whole point, is that we are actually striving for a proper equality, where you get all of the rights that everyone else should, regardless of your sex, sexuality, your skin color, or anything else. Wow. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Hey, Roy, in Paris?
Hello.
I apologize, but there's only like 20 seconds left, and
okay.
there's just no way.
I'm just glad I found you once on the time here because it's after midnight.
Yeah.
So I like very much your show.
Thank you.
Just watch it on YouTube.
Thanks a lot. And I'm going to have to ask you to, maybe you can call back next week an hour earlier.
I'll try.
So you don't have to stay
Thank
up
you
as
very
late
much.
if you call up an hour
Good
early.
luck, guys.
Thanks, Roy.
Hi, Jen.
Hi.
I'm a big fan of all of you, so have fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Roy is a Christian caller from Paris who had wanted to share his opinions about God, and I actually look forward to possibly talking to him about it next week. We're pretty much out of time.
Yeah.
And boy, that
Winding
sucks.
that
An hour
down.
just goes faster and faster.
Yeah.
Or seems to. As a reminder, there will be a show next week. I'm on with, is it Tracy?
It's Tracy.
It's Tracy. So last week when I announced that it was me and Tracy, it's because this show didn't even appear on the website. We don't know what happened. This is the missing show with the missing CG. And we'll be down at El Arroyo. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you again next week. And normally we would put up the graphic of all the fine people and the producers in the back room, like Frank and Steve and Shelley and John. And so just pretend like the name